Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the 4-H Civic Engagement Workshop. We are really glad that you could join us today. For those of you returning, welcome back. For those of you joining us for the first time, we're glad to have you. It's exciting to be a part of this group. My name is Steve Mckinley. I get to work as a 4-H Extension Specialist at Purdue University in the areas of leadership and volunteerism, and also get to work with the 4-H Civic Engagement team. And it's our pleasure to be able to present this workshop to you today. If you've not yet had a chance to tell us that you're here, there's a link on the slide that you're taking a look at now that would allow you to do so. That just gives us information that we can stay in touch with you after the workshop's over and let you know when the resources have been posted for you to take a look at. A couple of housekeeping things to get us started this afternoon as we think about the Zoom format, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. If you are not speaking, please go ahead and keep that mic muted for us. That way there won't be as much feedback. If you're having any issues with some connection, if you want to turn your video off, that probably will help you. Feel free to do that. If you're not having connection issues, it's fine to keep your video on. We like to see your faces. That's fine. Ask the questions as you have them. Anytime you'd like to, you can use the chat box. You'll find that probably on either the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on which device that you're using. You can pull that up and type a message to us. We'll be happy to try to respond as we can. And also always be respectful and considerate of others. I know that you'll do that. I'm not worried about that, but it's always good just to say, and just to remind you that we are recording and monitoring this session today. Some of you may be joining us that do not have a good 4-H background or a strong 4-H background, and I'd like to just give you a brief overview of what 4-H is. We are part of a national program that involves about 6 million young people in grades 3 through 12. We're offering opportunities that help develop your life skills in a number of different areas. In Indiana, Purdue University is the institution that's responsible for the Indiana 4-H program. And our program is led by a 4-H educator in each of our counties and supported by hundreds of 4-H volunteers who are very dedicated to the well-being of young people. And we're very thankful for those volunteers and our staff. You can choose from over 60 different project or subject areas to learn from in the 4-H program. And if you'd like to learn more about those, feel free to take a look at our website. A nice Google search of Indiana 4-H will probably get you there pretty quickly. Yesterday, we talked about county and state government. We had Senator Buchanan join us yesterday. That video from yesterday's program will be posted very soon, and it's on our 4-H Civic Engagement website that is listed there at the bottom of your screen now. We also have the resources from yesterday posted, and we'll do the same for today and tomorrow's sessions. Today, we're going to talk a little bit further about our local issues that we started our discussion on yesterday, and we are excited to have a panel of government officials today to join us, as well as a circuit court judge that'll be with us towards the end of this afternoon. Tomorrow morning, recognize a different time tomorrow, we're 9 to 11:30 in the morning tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about international experiences that you can have, but also those that maybe have been experienced by others in their careers and or they may have lived throughout their lives. And so that's going to be happening, along with the chance to listen to a presenter from our College of Science at Purdue talking about how we can all get along a little bit better with each other, how we can learn to work together effectively. And that's a really important topic. I'd like to introduce to you the panel of experts that have put this program together. We're very excited to be able to work with this again. I think this is probably our 5th year. I think we might have been doing this type of a workshop. First time virtual, but would like to start off with Katie with introducing yourself to us, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Sweet. I am the 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator in Hendricks County.
My name is Dan Miller. I'm a 4-H club leader in Vanderbilt County. I work for the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm coming to you from my apartment in Greenwood, Indiana.
I'm Doug Keenan, 4-H and youth educator in Noble County, and I'm very glad that all of you were able to join us again, and we're happy to have you with us this afternoon.
Thank you, guys. And again, my name is Steve Mckinley, 4-H Extension Specialist at Purdue University, working in the areas of leadership and volunteerism, and it's my pleasure to help keep this program moving forward and coordinated with the other 3 people that you just heard from. So now, Katie, I think we're going to ask you to say hello again and talk to us a little bit about who's on the call today.
All right. So we've got a big group of people. Steve, would it be possible, I forgot to ask this earlier, to do another breakout so we can do introductions?
Absolutely. Give me a couple of seconds here. We can do that.
I will explain. And I apologize, my internet is pretty slow today, so I do not have my video on because that helps with the speed of my internet and hopefully helps with the lag issues. So yesterday we asked our participants to share their name and a word or two that they think of when they hear the term civic engagement. We're going to do something similar today. We're going to go into 2 different breakout rooms, and what we would like you to do is we would like you to share your name, the county you're from, because we might have some new people joining us, and we want to know if you are in any leadership roles currently. That could be in a club, an organization, maybe within your community, or if you're not, what type of leadership role would you like to have? And I'm talking anywhere from club recreation officer all the way to President of the United States. If you could have a leadership role, what do you think your leadership role would be? So again, name, county, and leadership role if you're in one, or if you are not currently in a leadership role, what leadership role do you think that you would do awesome at? All right.
That sounds good. We are ready. I'm going to give you 5 minutes in your breakout rooms, okay? So here we go. You can go now to your breakout rooms. All right, welcome back. Glad you got to have a chance to talk with each other for just a little bit. We're going to get you back into a different breakout room here in just a few minutes, but I want Katie to be able to share a little bit about what we did yesterday and how we got to the point of having some local issues that you all can discuss today.
Absolutely. So thank you again for everyone for participating in our intros. I know in our breakout room, we had people from all over the state and lots of different leadership interest as well as participation. So yesterday we were able to talk about and identify some issues that we see within our community. And the participants had a long list of ideas, and we were able to narrow those down to our top 3 choices. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be breaking out into breakout rooms to dig a little bit deeper into those areas. And the 3 you will now see on your screen that we identified. One is hunger/homelessness. One is to have more inclusive events, such as cultural appreciation events within communities. And then the last one was Wi-Fi for all people and rural people, especially, / good internet connection for everyone. So these were the 3 topics that out of, I want to say maybe 30 or 40.
A lot.
It was a lot.
Which was good.
It was great. We narrowed it down to these top 3. So what we're going to be doing is dividing into 3 different groups. And in a little bit, we will actually have the opportunity to connect with local government officials and ask them some questions on how they handle these situations within their community. You might not have, or you might not think maybe that you have one of these issues within your community. That's okay, because as we talked about yesterday, it's really good to hear both sides of issues when we are doing research. So pros, cons are both very important as we start to look at how we can make an impact on our community. So the end goal with this activity is that you're going to be better prepared to take action in your local community to make a positive difference. You'll know hopefully what types of questions that you should be asking if these are of interest to you. Again, if you're not interested in any 3 of these, the process is still going to be very important to understand, so that if there's a topic that you're passionate about, you can go into your community, have your voice be heard, and know who to go to and how to address issues within your area. I think I got everything there, Steve.
Right. So now we want to get them in the breakout rooms. So Katie, did you have a really great idea how to do that?
You're able to assign them, correct? I just want to make sure, like, it doesn't have to be random.
Yes.
Okay, so
raise their hand by topic.
Yes, that was actually what I was thinking. So On the bottom of your screen, you should see a reaction button. And if you click that, you should have like a hand clap or a thumbs up. If you do not see that, let us know in the chat box. And what we will do is, pull my screen up. As we go through these topics, we would like to try and evenly distribute kids into the different groups, just so we can have good conversation and make sure everybody has a chance to talk if they're interested. But what we'll do is we'll go through the topics, and when you find the one that you would like, go ahead and click one of those icons. And if you, again, don't see those icons, or maybe you're on your phone and can't access those, go ahead and type in the chat box which one you would like to be able to see. Make sure if you're typing in the chat box, you send it to Steve Mckinley.
That works.
All right.
So let's start with homeless and hunger and homelessness. If you would like that option, and that's good. Let's see here. I'm going to. Oh, they went away. Where'd they go?
Oh, so keep you might have to click it again because it is only a couple seconds. And so
I'm not that
we
quick.
just make sure Steve gets enough time to be able to do that. So if you see it go away, make sure you have your hand raised until Steve tells you differently.
Okay, well, I think I got a pretty good start. We may have to come back, and that's okay. So let's move next to the inclusive events. So the more inclusive events. It's interesting how things keep falling away here, but I think we'll be okay. Let's see. Don't go away yet from me. Oh, there's another page. Hang on. Don't go away yet. There's one, and there's one. Okay, good. Now you can put your hands down for that one. Let's go to our third one, and that is Wi-Fi internet connectivity. So if you would like that one. Okay, let's see here. All right, I think I'm close. What I'm going to do is open the rooms. If I didn't get you assigned, you will stay, and then I can move you to where you wanted to be. So,
hold on, wait, Steve.
Oh,
I was saying before you do that,
sure.
just want to clarify our goal for the breakout rooms. So, like Steve said, we're going to be in breakout rooms. Each of the adults are going to be overseeing one of the breakout rooms to help answer questions and lead some discussion. Our goal is that each group is going to come up with 3 main questions that we are going to ask our government panel within the next couple minutes once we are once they get on. So there's a chance. So Doug and Dan, when we go to the breakout rooms, you can share your screen, and there should be an option for a whiteboard. So if you need to use that to brainstorm and write down questions, the goal is that we will end up having 3 questions that each group will ask our candidates, and the adults will make sure that they write down those 3 questions, because we will type them into the chat box when we are all done and back in the main breakout room. Does that make sense for everyone? So good discussion is welcome. Participation is welcome. And there's going to be no silly questions. We are welcoming all questions.
All right, so with that, we are going to come back together in the main room at 1:45. So we've got plenty of time to have good discussion. Again, I'm going to open the rooms. If for some reason I didn't get you assigned, I will do that. And if I got you in the wrong room, you can exit that room, come back out, and I'll try to get you in the right spot. So here they come.
All right. So welcome to our panelists. Welcome groups back to the main room. Adults, if you have a chance, please type your questions into the chat box, the 3 questions that our groups put together. And I would say send them to make sure they're being sent to everyone, so that our panelists as well as the youth that are joining us today can see those questions, just so we can get a feel for what other questions were asked in case they are a question that might relate to the group that we were in and didn't get a chance to talk about. So please do that. I am excited to have our panelists joining us today. I will let them introduce themselves, but before I do, just as a reminder to our youth, please make sure we're being respectful. And as Steve mentioned early on in this call, make sure your mic is muted unless you have a question. If at any time you do have questions while our panelists are talking, feel free to type those in the chat box and we'll make sure that we can get those asked for you. I know some kids had some audio issues, so making sure that the chat box is an option. Panelists for today, just to recap what we're doing, we were broken out into 3 different breakout rooms. Our kids have narrowed down 3 questions about topics related to what you see on the screen. One is hunger and homelessness. One is having more inclusive events such as cultural appreciation within their community. And one is Wi-Fi for all rural people / good internet for everyone. We would like these topics to be discussed with you today. In your introduction, we're just going to ask that you tell us a little bit about you, what position you are currently serving in within your community. And after everybody introduces themselves, we'll go through the groups kind of question by question, and you can give us some feedback as to how you're addressing those discussion or those topics within your county, community, state, whatever role you are in. Sound good? Awesome. So we'll start with David, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, come on, ladies first. Anyway.
You were the first on the screen.
Yeah, I see that. Hi, I'm David Byers, County Commissioner here in Tippecanoe County. County Commissioner, a lot of people ask, what do we do? You pretty much probably know what a mayor is. A mayor runs a city. Well, we run the county is what we do. We are in charge of over 800 miles of roads, 800 miles of field tile that's regulated. We take care of the jail, the courthouse, all the county office departments. When I first started in local government, I was in the county council. The county council was the fiscal part of it, and you'll learn that from Sharon here coming up. And now as a commissioner, as you know, the 3 main branches of government, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. We are pretty much the executive and the legislative part. But we do work closely with the judges when it comes to working in the courthouse. We work great together with the city of West Lafayette and the city of Lafayette. We try to work as a unit throughout this entire community, and 40-year 4-H volunteer and past 10-year 4-H member. So, all right.
All right.
Go ahead, back to you, Kitty.
Thank you. Sana, I think you were next.
Yes, my name is Santa Booker, and I'm the city clerk of West Lafayette. And that is a pretty unique position. It's kind of a quiet one that people don't know a lot about, but we are your record keepers. We're the people who take care of all the records for the city. Any business that has to do with how the city runs comes through my office. I work with every department head. I'm also the president of the Board of Public Works and Safety, and that is the board that approves the things that get improved in your city. So streets that need to be built and maintained, city lights, those kind of things are the things that goes through the clerk's office. I'm also a kind of a liaison for the city. I work with the mayor, but not for the mayor. It is an elected position. So I work for all of the citizens of West Lafayette, All of them are my supervisors. So they get to call me if they have a problem, and I can connect them to the right people to help solve that problem. But I'm also a part of many boards and organizations that feed into both communities and into the county so that we can make sure that everyone is safe and cared for. And that's me.
Thank you so much. Sharon, you're up next.
Unmute.
Sorry. I forget about that little button. My name's Sharon Hutchison, and I am on the Warren County Council, which is one of the smallest counties in the state. We have a little over 8,000 people in our county, but I am in charge of making sure that we spend our funds correctly for the county, that we get it divided amongst where it needs to go properly, and we don't overspend it on any certain areas. There are 7 members on county councils. That is statewide, I believe. There's 4 different districts. Each county is divided up into 4 different districts, and then you have 3 that are at large that can be from anywhere in your county. And again, we have to look at every department's budget every year and make sure that we have the income as far as taxes and other revenue that comes into the county and spread it out amongst the different departments. I'm also a 39-year volunteer for the Indiana 4-H 4-H period program, and I am on the Indiana 4-H Foundation Board, and I am also a 10-year member and had 2 children that are they are past 10-year members. So, and what I'm an extension educator.
Okay,
That's me.
say which one it is.
The
It may
one
be
that's on
me.
the screen.
Thank you all very much for joining us today. Steve, I'm going to have you actually go back a slide to talk about our topics, please. There you go. So we have youth on this call from all over the state. We're pretty excited. We're sitting at about 30-ish people here, which is awesome for us. This is our largest group that we've had with our 4-H Academy workshop. So very excited to have them joining us. And like I said, the 3 topics that we have been discussing today and a little bit yesterday included the ones you see on your screen. So what I would like to do is we're just going to start with that first topic, and we're curious how you are addressing these issues or seeing them in your position within the community. And then each group did come up with 3 questions that they would like to ask you, but we thought it would be great to start off with an overview of how you're addressing these scenarios within your community. And we'll go in the same order if you would, if that's okay with everyone. So we'll start with hunger and homelessness though. David, if you want to go first.
Well, I think one thing we've done throughout our community, and I'm sure Sanders will probably agree with this too, is we really reach out what we can do. We try to support the food groups as much as we can. I know every year we do a homeless count where they walk throughout and try to find how many homeless people we actually have. We as a county have invested in what we call Lafayette Transitional Housing, where we put money into a brand new facility to help work with homelessness and to work with mental health, and that part of those areas. You know, our Food Finders Bank, we've offered money there because they just built a brand new facility, so we helped invest into that building also. So we basically have tried to give back in a way with the taxpayers' money to try and help these individuals and try to help the problem. Santa?
Dave, you just about covered all of it. We do. We work collectively because homelessness is not a Lafayette or West Lafayette or county concern. It is a concern, period. So we too have invested in Lafayette Transitional Housing. We build into our budget money to give. We have found, in fact, I had a conversation on yesterday that our food banks are doing very well right now because we are good providers of our people. We want everyone to be cared for. So we are a generous community. A lot of donations go in, and we are also a part of that. I am on a board called Area 4 that deals with seniors and a lot of the issues they face. And we work to locate those people who are living a little beneath their means and they don't have all that they need. And we make sure that money is available and resources are available. And we also donate to United Way, which reaches out to just about everyone. And they are a big supporter of taking care of those who are working through difficult times. So we do some similar things because we have to. There's no way to do these things separately.
My turn. So, like I mentioned, Warren County is one of those smaller counties with a smaller population. That doesn't mean that we don't have homelessness or hunger. We did look recently, the countywide, we have a food co-op that has been started up by a local church, and they are supported a lot through donations. I don't believe they've come to the county council and asked us for funding, but I'm sure that knowing the county council members that we would be on board for any assistance we can provide for any of those needs. Homelessness, we have been made aware of homelessness in the incorporated towns. Actually, I'm aware that they reach out to those people that they know are homeless and try to find, mostly through churches in the community, to get help and assistance.
So one of the questions, and this can be up for whoever would like to answer, one of the questions from that group, sort of 1.5, what kind of funding can be made available for homeless shelters and homeless assistance? And what budgetary sacrifices would have to be made?
Dave?
Really, budget sacrifices is a matter of being fiscally responsible throughout your whole entire budget. I mean, our county budget centers around close to $60 million. So for us to be able to reach out, we use our economic development funds because it really is kind of economic development. It's a matter of trying to get the people back on their feet is what we've done on that part of it. You know, pretty much, I mean, I think the biggest thing we can do is, you know, Santa hit it as our United Way does a tremendous and wonderful job in this community to really get out and get the help and offer the services. You can't make somebody do something, but you can at least offer the service. And I think that's the leading way of what we, the county, does. Santa?
I know with us, both the mayor and I have budgets that we set in place to support different organizations so that we can kind of hit them all. And we build this into how we spend our money. We're very fiscally careful. I don't want to say that we don't. We use the money very wisely, and we look at organizations that reach out to the most people and to those who have the greater need. And these are the folks that we try to fund. The mayor has a group that he funds, and I have a group that I give to. And we believe that these are the most important things that we can do with money. And as Dave said, if we want to keep our cities growing, if we want to keep them built to where we see the best going, we have to invest in the people. There is no community if you don't have people who are cared for and then who are able to get up and stand up and then care for someone else. So I don't consider it a sacrifice at all. I consider it a part of good business and good government to give and serve those people in your community. Sharon?
So one of the first part of that question is what kind of funding can be made available. Not only do each county have their own budget, and as the other two have stated, that it's not a sacrifice that we make in our budget. We find somewhere that we can help out if there is a need. But there's also state entities that provide grants to communities as well as to the county as a whole. So there's always funding, I shouldn't say always, most of the time, there's funding out there available. And if you go to your elected officials and ask for help, they should be able to find the funds somewhere along the line to be able to help out with homeless shelters and any type of homeless situations. And David pointed out to a fact that a lot of that ties back into the mental health, and that is just one huge pot of money that the federals are looking at is making sure that those people are taken care of. And so if we have to find that pot of money from the federal level, we can always go to them and try to get some assistance made for those homeless people.
To touch just a little bit more what Sharon just said, we pay almost close to $1.3 million a year out of Tippecanoe County to mental health services here in our community. It's a rate that's automatically set by the state. The county collects it. It automatically goes to our local mental health hospitals. So we do have those set of funds also.
So one of the next questions, David, I think you might have talked about a little bit, but it's in what ways can we get children and people who really need help the food and services that they need?
Well, any community, every community, I'm assuming you have a United Way. That's usually kind of the first step, but they also have several other organizations, whether it be a church affiliation, whether it be a local 4-H group, however you really want to classify on that. We as elected officials don't see everybody, but somebody sees somebody who sees somebody who may see somebody who needs us help. Biggest thing we can do as a community is hopefully have the doors open so individuals can get in and help get the services and the help that they need. But it takes everybody to do that. I think that's the easiest way to answer that question. Dana?
David covered just about everything that I wanted to say. And I also want to encourage people to know that we are elected officials. That means that we're here for you. You can pick up a phone and call. And if you don't know who you need to talk to, you call, and whoever answers that phone can direct you to us. And we will point you in the direction that you need. We will get those services for you. They're there for you. It's not, you're not an inconvenience. You're not taking something away from somebody else. It belongs to you. So we want to encourage you to give us a call. And as David says, somebody knows. And if they know, make the call and we'll take it from there. Sharon.
You guys are doing a good job. I feel the same way. And being from a smaller community, I think that more people, I shouldn't say more people, but you notice it more because we are so small. We know what's out of place. If there's a child walking down the street that shouldn't be walking down the street normally, or if you see that they look hungry, or if they make a comment to somebody, the churches and the community foundations that we have in our county all reach out to these people. With the shutdown that we had, I'm sure that a lot of people knew that, but the buses were running routes because we have so many people that, or so many students that were on the paid lunch program. They actually delivered the lunches and breakfasts to those kids that were still on that list. And so we wanted to make sure that they still got food. And if they were able to make it into town, the churches had food for all of those places. So I think that just a good partnership between elected officials and the community is very key to making your county government work well and making the community a place that people want to go to and live.
Awesome. Thank you all. Last question related to this topic. In what ways can our local government develop ways to mentor youth and young adults living in poverty?
I'm going to yield to Santa first because she says I keep taking her answers. And I think you have a great youth council. So this might be something you could talk about your youth council by chance, Santa.
Well, we do. We do have a great youth council. But I also wanted to add it because they were talking about how we can continue to mentor. I know of a group, a young lady started a group for just young women who were in I don't want to say in jeopardy, but they were close to being there. They were kind of the least seen, the ones that you would not have picked up or paid attention to. And she started this organization. It's a 501(c)(3). And I have been able to support it because of what the mission is. And it is to help young ladies and young pre-women, they're headed that way, learn about who they are and what they are. And so we have, and in West Lafayette, because of the school systems and the things they have in place there. There are a lot of things that we don't get to put our hands on, but that doesn't mean that there are not young people who are struggling to know who they are, and what they need. And so we have, I know of this one organization that points to that. And I know, David, that in Lafayette, we have the Boys and Girls Club, which years ago I was a program director of in another state. And that is another organization that points to young people who may be in need or maybe just a little bit, maybe struggling just a little. And they have people there, and we have volunteers that are a part of that. So we have several things in place, but again, I will stress this, and I know David will too, and Sharon probably will as well. We need to know, you need to talk to us and tell us that there is something you see or someone who wants to learn more even about city government. We would love to be able to take someone under our wings and show them how it works to be a part of city government and what you need to do. So there are a lot of things out there, and I think Lafayette has a very, very strong youth group too, David. I don't know if you know more about that one, but yeah, we're here and we're ready and willing. David or Sharon? Let's do Sharon. Let's do Sharon, David.
Well, 4-H is a big part of Warren County. There is no doubt about it that is one of our big mentoring of our youth, I think, is how the 4-H community pulls together and helps each other out. As far as the local government, I agree with what Sana said, was that it is, our hands are tied because the school corporation is totally separate from the government. And so the things that go on in the school, they sort of pick up the pieces and carry on what needs to be done. Now, if they are find a situation that they can't handle or they don't have the means to handle, then they will reach out to the local government, and whether it be the town or the county government. But I think that a mentorship in Warren County, we have something similar for the Community Foundation, started a youth group to actually implement projects that they wanted to see done in their communities, and they're going forward with that project. And that's the first step I see, as far as, even though the Community Foundation is not government, I think that's the first step in our small community. But I can't tell you how important 4-H is in our county as far as mentoring the youth there and providing the leadership that they need, and the adults step up and they help them learn as they do and making themselves better.
That's why I yielded to the two ladies, because they had all the correct answers. So I guess that's answers the question, Katie.
All right. Those were great answers. We are going to move into our next topic, which is more inclusive events, specifically related to, cultural appreciation and ways that we can celebrate everybody that makes up our community and our county, our state. So the questions, I'm pulling those back up. One of the first questions from this group is, what can we do within our communities to make sure everyone is accepted and feels like they are part of the town, community, or city? And kind of along those lines, just like we did with the last one, if you want to just briefly tell what's going on within your position or what you have been involved with related to this topic, we can do all of that kind of in one. So David, do you want to go first, or do you want me to pick on someone else?
Well, no, I think this community can hold their head up high. I'm hoping I can say that. I mean, we have, and really, Santa, you may have to answer these on some. I know West Lafayette has a World Cultural Fair or something like that, where we, because of 40,000 Purdue students, and we have, I don't know how many hundreds of nations are represented, they have a very open ceremony for that. I know we have a gay pride celebration in Lafayette side, where on those ends of it, to accept everybody. I think the one thing every individual out there is, you need to listen. So whether it's a different culture, whether it's a different race, whether it's a different feeling of who you are or what you feel you are, hey, listen, I think that's the easiest way for me to answer this question, to be able to include everybody. You got to hear everybody. And that's one of the things that Santa said, you know, you have things, talk to us. Because that's one thing as elected officials are, we do listen a lot. And if you have officials that aren't listening, then they might not be the right officials to have, to be honest with you. And that's why there's a vote every 4 years. So, Santa?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we are very fortunate in this community. We do have a Global Fest, which is what David was talking about. And you have Purdue University. It is impossible not to be aware of the many countries who are involved in this school and the cultures that they bring here. And at Global Fest, we have all different types of foods and we have music. It is a wonderful celebration of our samenesses and our differences. It's a wonderful time to come together. We also have a local branch, West Lafayette and Lafayette, of the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And this is an inclusive group. It is not just for Black people. It is for everyone who believes in the civil rights of everyone. So we have this, and we talk about gay pride, and we talk about our Christian groups, our Jewish groups. All of these people have a place in our communities because every one of them gives us something that makes us better. I have never understood how we thought it would make sense to have one group of people. I heard someone say once, if we were all the same, then half of us are unnecessary. So we are a very, very fortunate group of people. We can also, too, in city government, we can call each other. It doesn't matter what city we live in. I even have buddies in other states who are doing the kind of work that I do. I can call them and get ideas, but we work very closely together here in Tippecanoe County, in West Lafayette and Lafayette. We speak truth, and we expect that people that come here to feel that they are welcome. And if they're not, we'd like to know that they're not feeling that. And as David said, if you have an elected official that will not listen to what you have to say, please vote them out. Sharon.
Communication. That's the biggest key to make people feel accepted and feel like that they're part of the town or community or city or county is communication. You have to have an open ear and open mind so you can listen to other people's ideas and see if that is going to be helpful for the community to go forward. So I think that always being able to listen, and it might not be the same thing the way you, the elected official, feel, but if you listen to them and take that into consideration, then I would hope that most people would feel accepted in the community, the city, or the county.
And being a very diverse community, we even have restaurants that will serve chicken feet. So we have a little bit of everything and anything out there if you want to try different cultures of food.
David, I had chicken feet in Louisiana where I grew up. So maybe cooked a little differently, but I sure had it.
All right. The next question this group talked about is, what can our communities do to help with the Black Lives Matter movement? And maybe how has that affected your positions that you are currently serving in?
Santa, I'll let you start.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You know, we are in times that have shaken many of us to the core of who we are, because it's not new. And we're struggling with what to do inside. I am honored that young people are asking these questions, because when you hear Black Lives Matter, a lot of people have made that seem like other lives don't matter. But what we're saying is that Black Lives Matter too, T-O-O, as in also. What I would ask you do, please, is to read, learn about the history of African-American people in this country, how it started, where it came from, what has been the generational traumas that have been experienced over time. And once you learn more, talk to someone, find someone that you feel that you can trust what they tell you, and ask ask hard questions. Don't hold back. Ask hard questions, and then see if there is a place that you can donate your time and your energies to this cause. Find out a safe and peaceful way to be engaged and involved. I work with training with our police force. I do that, and I will be working with our fire department as well, because we don't think about firefighters a lot, and we should. But I want to encourage you to read, glean information from people you trust, talk to people, ask questions, show up in safe places. I want you to be careful. Show up in safe places and make your voices heard, and say that either we accept everybody or everybody has to leave. I don't know how that would work. But anyway, these are difficult times. They really are. They're the hardest that I've seen in a very, very long time. So I thank you for asking the question and for your desire to be involved. It brings joy to my heart, and I'm very proud of you. Thank you. Dave or Sharon?
Well, I think the biggest word Santa just said there was peaceful. We've had, none of us are opposed to the protests that are happening, but peaceful is the word. We had a great one a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately, it was the aftermath of people that didn't want to be peaceful, and that takes away from what really is trying to be said. What's trying to be said is change needs to happen, but once again, peaceful. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of anger out there. As Santa said, I've sat down and had some great talks with her, honestly. And she really opened my eyes up to a few things a while back. And sorry, Santa, I don't want to blow your head up and say, well, you inflated me, but she really gave me some great thoughts and ideas. And so I'm really impressed on that part of it. I think that's the most corrective thing, is just talk, you know, plain and simple. You know, if you want to go to the gay or lesbian side, my daughter has some wonderful friends. I've been able to sit down and just talk to them. I have a nephew who was a he, is now a she. You know, but we still love them, and they're still family, and they're still friends. So, Sharon?
It's hard to top that. Santa said the best thing there is to say is that you need to be educated and learn what the movements are about, whether it be Black Lives Matters or Chicken Feet Matter. Whatever it is, you need to learn the background of it and take it to your heart and see what you feel personally and be peaceful about it and share that information with those around you. And you don't need to tear things up. You don't need to break the law to prove your point. I think wisdom is the best point right here.
Great, thank you. The last question from this group was, what can we do to protect community monuments? Because that relates to like the background and inclusive events. There's lots of different things going on in the news right now about different monuments. So they were questioning what they could do to protect community monuments.
Sharon, you can start.
Well, I can start with that one because we don't really have a lot in our community. But I would say that, again, you don't want to break laws. For instance, I do know that if you want to hold a protest, you have to file certain rules. You have to contact the commissioner's office. But I'm sure in every county it's going to be that way. You have to contact the executive authority and find out if you can do that on the courthouse lawn, or if you can do that in a certain area, or in the towns or cities. There's going to be places that you have to go through the proper procedures and make sure that you have insurance in place and that you have control over the group that you invite. So if you are wanting to do some type of protest or some type of gathering of some kind, you want to make sure that you follow all the right rules. So to protect our community monuments, I would say you're going to want to do the same thing, is just be helpful and respectful of what they're out there for, and research them and find out the history of them, and just hopefully share that with your friends and the community that you live in.
Hannah.
I thought I'd get you in there, David.
I know
Okay.
you would.
This one is hard. I tell you, I think this is probably the hardest one you've asked because there are feelings involved in some of the things that we've seen and the removal of some of the things that we've seen. They're historical things, which is why I stated earlier that I needed you to read and to learn and to find out why some of these monuments are considered so offensive. With that said, it is important to do things as legally as you can. And I say as you can because there have been times in our history that we've not been able to do that as easily as we would have liked. But I still like that course first. And I do believe that there are some people that should not be standing up in stone as if they did not even all of the right things, but even some of the right things. So that's why I want to tell you to read, find out the history of the people that you're looking at, and see if they're worthy of that. See if their history allows them to be standing in front of us, looking as if they're great. And if for some reason you find out that this is not what you want to have in your town, as Sharon said, take the steps, go to your city council, get petitions, do what you need to do peacefully, but be very direct in what it is you're trying to do. Ask hard questions. Expect answers, because I think we have to be very careful of who we stand in protection of. And I'm going to say it until we all are on one accord. Learn about it, read about it, and then make a decision that is both educated and reasonable. David?
Well, Warren County does have the state's highest waterfall. So during the summer, you might have to turn a garden hose on to make it work, but it does happen, right, Katie? So, but I think everything that Santa just said is the biggest thing. Is those monuments still worthy? You know, is it best to move them to a museum of some sort or completely tear them down or such? I mean, it is part of our history. Whether our history is good, bad, or indifferent, it is part of our history. And for history not to repeat is to learn from the past. So, our biggest monument, I think, in our community is our courthouse. It's a beautiful, beautiful courthouse. And I think it's truly our greatest monument.
I think so.
Well, when we had demonstrators the other day throwing bricks through windows and things like that, that's not right. So, you know, we have a monument clear out at Battleground. So that monument would be there because it was a battle against the Indians and it defeated a lot of Indians. And, you know, is that one that needs to be looked at? So it's, I think basically, as Santa said, study the history, see where it's supposedly still correct or not, or if it's something that really needs to picture of it, put it in a museum or such. So.
So before we go to our third topic, we know that Santa has to leave at 2:30, so we do want to be respectful of your time. But we did want to follow up because you had mentioned the youth council, and we would just like to ask if you could talk a little bit more about that, because I do want to add, I was in the group that talked about the more inclusive events, and some of the questions they were asking, I know you said, you know, it made you excited and proud they were having these conversations. You should have seen some of the other questions they were asking. This group is very passionate, and it was just great to hear that coming from our youth. And I'm sure working with the youth council, you get to see a lot of different youth involved in that as well. So would you be willing to speak about that part?
Well, let me say this. I don't work with the youth council. I think probably Cindy Murray does more in Lafayette, but because you have said what you've said, I would love to have an occasion where we can all kind of sit down together and talk. And if that meant we needed to do another Zoom session, because I want to hear those other questions. I want to hear what they had to say. I love this stuff. But I think Cindy Murray has more of a presence in her youth council than I do. So I cannot really speak highly of that. And unfortunately, these last few months, we don't see anybody. You know, we don't get to know what anyone's doing and where they are. It's awful, just awful. But if there's a way that they are welcome to call me, or we can figure out a way, we can social distance in this building. We can. Come on over. I would love to sit down, hear your questions, and talk to you, because I have a feeling that this group is my group. I feel like this is mine, that our minds work alike. So I would love to have that happen. And I thank you all so much. I'm so appreciative of this time together, and to get to meet Sharon and to see my buddy David. I thank you all so much, and please forgive me. I have to go to another Zoom meeting. It's awful. I get to go to another. I think this one is more fun though. I'm just saying. So if we can do this again, you know, some kind of way that you can set up so they can be in touch with me, I would love to answer or be a part of the conversation with the other questions.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We will go on to our next topic, but thank you so much.
Bye-bye, all.
Take care.
All right, so down to 2 panelists. Great discussion so far. Thanks for sticking with us. Our last topic is about Wi-Fi. And so because I'm going to pull up these questions, before we really get going, would either of you like to talk about how you're addressing the issue of Wi-Fi in your positions currently?
I'll go first. So because Warren County is such a rural area, and because the students have been home from school for quite some time now, we have had to, as a county, elected officials had to go outside the box and find ways to get internet access to these people, to the students. And they've come, I know that our commissioners in Warren County have worked exclusively with the school to come up with situations that are helpful, as well as the school board themselves has. I know for a fact that we are working on an income survey for the whole county to see if we would qualify for state funding for a grant to get implementation of this. But I also know that it's way over my head on all the technology that is necessary, the fiber optic that needs to be run. I know that probably 10 years ago, we had the fiber optic ran from across the Wabash River and down 28, and then out to past the hospital that we have in Williamsport, and then out to our high school, so that they would have those two facilities would have great internet connection through those fiber optics. Now getting that fiber optics to the rest of the county is our problem, and we're trying to do research as best as we can to get that alleviated and get everybody online. So that's what we're doing. Go ahead, David, you can answer the rest.
We are lucky that we have a rural electric company called Tipmont, and they have just made it their mission to get fiber optic to every house that's in their area, or their zone is what it is. It's called WinTech, tied in with Tipmont. During the stay-at-home school situations, they went to every local elementary / high school and put up free Wi-Fi, so that you could pull into the parking lot and do your homework, and if you didn't have it in your so-called little area and such, so students could still be able to do things online. They have a 5-year plan, and this is year 2 of their 5-year plan to run this fiber optic to every home. It is, even if there's only one house sitting on a road, they're going to charge the same to everybody, to whether there's 10 houses or 1 house. That's their commitment. By getting internet to rural areas or throughout your whole community is a great big economic development issue, because once you get that, that opens it up for other businesses. That allows businesses, that allows growth in your community, that allows, anytime you get more connection for everyone, that helps your entire community. We have been lucky. We're one of the fastest growing communities in the state. Whether it's because of great leadership or Purdue University or however you want to classify it, we still have businesses looking at us basically every other week. We still have companies looking at coming here and things like that. So I think internet, we know, has to be part of it. We know our schools are growing. We know we learned through this so-called shutdown that we've had how much more important it really is. We've answered some surveys, like Sharon says, you know, to see where we can get some more internet capacity. We do have some areas in the rural area that's Duke Energy and not Tipmon, and Duke's not talking to running that fiber yet. So if you have rural electric systems out there, I think it might be something to bring to those boards. We're the first, Tipmon's the first in the state, and now they have other rural electric companies talking to them on how they can start doing this service.
Awesome. Thanks for that brief update of what's going on in your communities. We do have 3 questions as well from this group. The first is, how can we get internet to rural areas in an economical way? You guys talked about that a little bit, but in general, what would be your advice?
Well, Warren County still uses smoke signals, so we got to get them up a little bit faster than that, plus the Morse code they're still playing with. I think if you look at Farm Bureau is still pushing hard for the state to help fund the getting internet out there. I think that's the easiest way to say it. It's not cheap, especially if you're running fiber or such. It's not cheap. It's really, I don't think it's government that really needs to, or local government that really has to push this. But if you're looking at potentially a large amount of growth, potentially a lot of potential new businesses, then yeah, maybe local government should look at it. But we as Tippecanoe County have not put funds up. Sharon?
Well, like I said, I know that the county government in Warren County is trying to get the funding out there to get a engineering perspective so that we have a better plan in place of how much it is going to cost, not just the citizens, but whatever entity decides to take that on, whether it be an REMC or the cable company, or, you know, just the factory down the street that wants to get it see the internet go to their county, the employees. If they want to take that on, we don't know who's going to fit the bill, but I agree with David saying. So as far as this group is concerned, I think that there's not a simple answer. Yes, everybody knows this. The governor of the state knows that the rural areas, they do not have the internet access that they need to have to be successful and to move us forward, so that people want to graduate from college and come back to their hometowns or come back to parts of Indiana, even though, you know, the internet service might not be the best. So I think it's something everybody needs to address together, but there's not one simple solution.
So again, you guys, I think, touched on this a little bit, but with e-learning required by schools, how can people who can't afford internet get the internet for their schoolwork? Or what ideas are out there?
Well, it could be something through your school corporation saying, somehow can you get internet service into our parking lots? I mean, it might be much of a pain that, okay, I have to drive and sit in the parking lot to be able to do my homework, but that could be a first start. You know, to get it out into the rural areas, it's like any business. It's a supply and demand business. We can supply it if you're demanding it, but what are you willing to pay for it? I think that's basic economics, the easiest way to look at that one. Sharon?
I think that some of the cable services that have the internet were offering discounted rates because it's of the e-learning and such. I believe that some of them saw that need, and I hope maybe that they can continue that. I'm not sure because I'm not on their budget planning, but I think that reaching out to Comcast or AT&T or whoever your internet service is in your area and letting them know your situation, you just have to speak up and try to find the right answer. And hopefully there's some agency in a county that would have that information to be able to share with any citizen that would call in. So I think that I agree that we want the citizens to reach out to your elected officials, but you have to be patient with us too. We might not have all the answers at the time that you ask the question.
And it's going to be a fiscal question. And right now, counties are going to be tight because of the COVID situation. We know the income taxes are going to be down. We know our road money is going to be completely down. Money's going to be tight. And we still have, there are certain services we have to offer. I mean, we have to have a jail. We have to have a courthouse. We have to do those certain things. And, you know, is this a service that has to be there or a service that would like to be there. And you know, you kind of have to look at it both directions.
I agree with what you're saying. I know that all of our libraries, the branches of the libraries in the different townships all have internet access, but you have to get there. And, you know, you have to be able to drive there. So if you're not able to get to one of the libraries to get the internet access, McDonald's is a popular place.
So David and Sharon, we have reached the end of our questions for these three topics. However, we're not done with you yet because we still got a few minutes, which is exciting. But what we're kind of interested now, and I think, David, you started to kind of touch on this in your last answer, but other issues that you all are currently facing in Tippecanoe and Warren counties that you think would be of interest to our students?
Well, everybody likes their road, whether you have a blacktop road or whether you have a gravel road, you'd like to have it blacktop. We know through the shutdown, we're estimating our average will bring in close to $6 million a year off of fuel tax money. So people driving, you pay so much and you collect fuel tax. We know right now we're probably going to lose close to $1.5 to $2 million out of road funding due to the shutdown. So that alone is already crimping our road funding to be able to continue whether to patch roads, whether to crack and seal them, whether to try and resurface them, things like that. So we know that issue's happening. We're looking at our income tax, which normally we bring in close to $9 to $10 million a year off of income tax. Well, we know unemployment shot way up. We know there were several people that were not, you know, they're not making money. And so by doing that, we know we're estimating right now close to a 25% drop in that. So that's our pre-projections of what we're having. At the same time, we still have a jail that basically needs some major work done to it. We're looking at community corrections and trying to do some major work to there. And as a growing community, at times we need more employees to help offer better services. So I think those are the big crunches we're looking at right now. Was the bathroom okay, Katie? Is that where you went? Okay, Sharon?
So being from a small community, I can say that we don't have those big headaches that Tippecanoe County has. We obviously, when the governor told us to shut down, shut our doors on everything, and we had to close down the courthouse, this was the first year. Luckily, we had started talking about it in January, but we had one actual specific bailiff assigned to the courthouse. And so he basically guarded the one door that we had unlocked and was able to allow people in that had appointments or take things necessarily. So I guess, you know, COVID brought that about, but we were looking forward to that in January, like I said, so we had the plan in the making. So it didn't quite hurt our budget because we had budgeted it that way, but still just how to change the normal daily routine of paying your taxes, of getting your marriage license, of going to see, you know, the assessor's office or the recorder's office. Those, having that shut down and not being able to do that, we had to learn how to do things online, how to learn to contact people, oh my gosh, through a phone and actually talk to people on the phone and schedule appointments. So I think that was a challenge just for the government aspect of it. We did a lot of Zoom meetings because to keep our social distancing, like I said, the council has 7 members on it. So we did those virtually, and the commissioners have learned how to spread themselves out in our small rooms. But those are all things that's part of government, and that's part of moving forward as you adapt and make things work and keep yourself open for the community to be able to reach out to you and request things that are concerning to them. That's it.
So one of the topics that we talked about yesterday was sidewalks, and I think, David, you mentioned a little bit, maybe like potholes and stuff, and knowing that that's an issue. But we talked about sidewalks and parks and like bike paths, walking paths, trails, that sort of stuff. Are either of you involved with those discussions within your community, or could you shed some light on maybe your role or the role of making sure that there are plenty of safe walking paths, that sort of stuff within a community? Because that was a topic we discussed yesterday, but didn't make the cut for the top 3.
Well, if you want to look right outside our window right now, you can see the sidewalks getting tore up. So we with the city of Lafayette, they have done a great job of cleaning up a lot of the old sidewalks and putting in new with pavers and things like that. As a community, and if Santa was here, she'd be even better to talk about this. Between Lafayette and West Lafayette, I think there's close to almost 35 to almost 40 miles of bike paths and walking trails that they've done, that they interlock, and they're interlocking in between. Soon there'll be one that really connects both cities. I mean, you have a bridge you can cross over, but they're gonna have a path that will connect over that. Some of the things we've done throughout the county is, like, we have a major road project that's happening out by a school. Well, we're getting it done. On one side will be a bike path, on the other side will be a walking trail, or a sidewalk, if you want to call it. Because it's a school that's close enough to a considerable amount of homes. A lot of times we've seen kids and parents walking the road to get to the school, but they're basically on the road. So anymore now, any of our major road projects that we're doing, we're adding those trails and we're adding those sidewalks to hopefully, A, safety. I think that's the biggest part, but B, it also helps with the health part of people. Sharon?
So, like David said, the city of Lafayette has been working on the sidewalks around the building, but to get to that point, it took many years of planning and developing and budgeting. And so Warren County is in the infancy states of that. We do have a big community group getting together to work on, they call it the Falls Project. And because we have the highest single falling waterfalls in the state of Indiana, it's been very popular this month as people are going outside. And luckily, last month, 2 months ago, there's a committee of volunteers that have cleaned a path from the falls almost down to the Wabash River. And so the town is looking into creating that as a path, and that's going to be incorporated into a path along the Wabash River that goes all the way from Cass County down to Fountain County and possibly on down into Vermilion County. It's a great 90-mile project that they're working on the Wabash River to make that a great greener space. Tippecanoe County has an awesome space already along the Wabash and trails that interact with that, but we want to connect it all along from, like I said, all the way up from Logansport all the way down. Delphi's got an awesome place too, but Warren County's trying to keep up with what we can. We have the Community Foundation has a map on the side of their building now with different places that you can go to in the county. Niches has, as well as other places along the Wabash that you can go out and do tours. And we're doing the part about planning. You've got to have that plan, or you can't get the funding from the states or other places to get those projects done, because they do cost a lot of money. And even though the county may budget it for 5 years down the road, it takes a while to get there. So we're going to get there.
And one of the other things we've looked at in our county is abandoned railroad lines, turning those into whether riding trails, bike trails, things like that. And that's another issue that's been in the infancy, that's coming from basically Indianapolis up to here.
So the last question officially I have, and then we are going to open it up to our participants if they have any last minute questions, is what advice would you give our participants if they are interested in getting involved at local government, or if they have a topic such as the ones we talked about today that they're passionate about? What are some next steps that they can take to start making changes within their community?
Sharon?
Which one to address first? So to get involved in local government, I would strongly suggest, if you're old enough, I believe 16 is the age you have to be, to help in the election procedure. In November, we have a general election coming up with the presidential election, and your clerk's office is going to need volunteers to help do X, Y, and Z, or to actually get paid for and work the polls that day as well too. So check with the clerk's office and see if you can help out there. If you're wanting to, if you're older and ready to get out into it, there's precinct committee members for both parties need to be done in each county. That's a great starting place. It's elected. You have to fill out all the forms just like you do for any elected official. And it gives you an idea of what's going on. Township trustees need a board that is a small position, but you still have to learn a lot. So there's places that you can start at and learn how the government works and pulls yourself together. And if nothing else, just ask one of your elected officials to do a week long in your summer months when you can walk through the office and work with them side by side just to see what they do. I think that's an excellent way to learn what the county government is all about.
Santa didn't touch it too hard, but if you look at the city of Lafayette, the youth group that they have, which is something, if you live in a little city or you live in a little town, the youth group in Lafayette, they're the ones that designed the flag for the city of Lafayette. They're the ones that figured out the colors that they would put on trash trucks and highlighted those things. They try to pick an art project every year or such that maybe a painting on the wall and things like that. It might be something to talk to your local mayors or such as to say, hey, you know, if they don't have it, we'd like to have it. They went through interviews. They went through made sure every school was represented, and the mayors listen to them. He really does. He wants to hear from them. He wants to, because you're the new voice. You're the voice that, as we said earlier, we need to hear that voice to get involved into elections. If you have a candidate that you really like or something, volunteer to help them. That's the best way to start figuring out, okay, here's what needs to be done, here's what not needs to be done. Every elected official out there has an email, there should, and if you have questions, you can look it up and send questions to them. One of the first things you learn is answer questions. So if the questions come into my office or Sharon's office or Santa's office, we're going to answer the question. And if we don't know the answer, we're going to find the person that will know that answer. You're the future. You're the ones we want to actually hear from. Yeah, we might get that 90-year-old grumpy grandma who's upset because we drove over her flower pot. But unfortunately, those things do happen, but you're who we like to hear from.
All right, thank you both. We just got a couple minutes left, so we would like to invite our participants to join us in asking any questions. You can either unmute yourself, or if you would like to type it in the chat box. Adults, I'm going to have you guys make sure your chat box is also up in case they send it to you privately, and we'll just give the last couple minutes to our participants to ask any other questions. It could be related to the topics we discussed today, or if you have any other burning questions for our panelists, go ahead and ask those now. It can even be where David got his awesome 4-H Hawaiian shirt.
And I have my coconut monkeys up there behind me. So those are
festive.
You have a bashful group of kids, it looks like.
Maybe you guys just answered all of the questions really well.
I think even if you go back to your 4-H boards, in Tiffany County, we started a youth board, which is a youth executive board. They are able to sit through the fair boards as meetings, and that are able to get their input. And once again, that's kind of like I'm saying about the youth council for the cities. If your county fair board doesn't have a youth board, maybe they should. That way they can understand really what the youth is thinking and how they may want change, how they may want something different. Because a lot of fairs I know get stuck because this is the way we've always done it, and we can't go making those kind of changes, but they might want to hear from you because you truly understand saying, no, let's go this direction. So as you can tell, Sharon and I usually don't keep quiet too well. And we met way back when in 4-H camp. So I'm not going to give you the year because I'll tell you how old both of us are, but We met back in friends clear back in the days of 4-H, back at State Junior Leader Conference, I think, or
Yep.
probably was.
So David, I have a question directly for you. What is the hardest part of being a county commissioner?
You're going to take hits. You're not going to make everybody happy. You have to think what is the best for the entire community, not just a set project. Some people have come in with just we want this, and for the general whole public, you have to think outside the box on that and listen to more. First thing I really learned as a commissioner is 90% of your noise comes from 10% of the people. And it's that other 90% that's not speaking up, that aren't kind of happy what's happening, and are things going like that direction. I've been very lucky. My other two commissioners that I've had to work with are excellent people. We have a pretty broad range for our county. We have one who is a banker, another one who is a past sheriff, and I'm considered the farmer. So we really kind of represent the business, the law side, and the agricultural side. So I think that's what really helps our community on that part of it. But really you're going to take some hits. You're not going to keep everybody happy. I think and if you have a soft skin, that's kind of hard to be an elected official. I'll flat out tell you.
I do have one more, and I think it's going to be our last one because I know we've got to get on our break. One of our youth asked, how do you go and seek out opinions from parts of the community that don't always speak up for themselves?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I've had to reach out to a specific area in the community that doesn't want to speak out for themselves, and basically you send them a letter, and hopefully the mail will get to them at the right address and ask their opinions specifically for a topic. And I think just be direct about it. If you have to go door to door, obviously we can't do that now, but when I was campaigning, 8 years ago or 5 years ago, it was a door-to-door thing. I wanted to go out and ask everybody what they needed to see, what they wanted to see changed in the county, and how they wanted things improved. So that's the best bet, is going door to door, because people miss that contact, that one-on-one conversation, like I said, and even calling people and asking them. And it's just asking questions and trying to find the people that need to have help.
And
David.
Okay. No, we have, I'm involved with Farm Bureau. Like I said, I'm involved with the 4-H group. There's many other organizations that are out here. I'll go back to the initial thing way beginning. We're a community that talks. So what City of West Lafayette is hearing, and we may not be able to hear, we talk once a month, same as Lafayette. Once a month, we get together with the mayors, the commissioners, people from Purdue, and what's happening, what's going on. So we do a lot of communication that direction, and that way we're all kind of on the same page. And guess what? We have some R's and some D's throughout that whole group, but we talk and we get along, and it's how can we help the community? And if there's organizations out there, and where it's tied through United Way, they talk to us. Where it's through the chamber, we hear from them. Where it's through other little organizations, we hear from them. So that's really open thy mouth. So.
All right. So thank you again very much for joining us. I know we've got to get into our stretch break before we go into our next section, so everybody can get up and stretch their legs. Thank you very, very much. Participants, thanks for those questions. Those were great questions that you guys thought up. I'm sure our panelists are going to talk about all of this for, at least the coming weeks of how awesome you guys were and the questions you asked. So thank you, panelists, for joining us. And Steve, are we still going to do a 5-minute break?
We will. We'll come back at 3 o'clock.
Hey,
Thank you for asking this.
Yes.
Katie and Steve, if any of the panelists would like our email addresses, please go ahead and pass it on to them. If there's questions we didn't ask, if there's questions they thought of, we'll do our best to try and get them answered.
We appreciate that very much. Thanks, David. Thanks, Sharon.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you back in 5 minutes. Judge Person is on the call and ready to talk to us as soon as we get back. So We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Okay, it is our pleasure this afternoon to kind of close our session today on Thursday with a session that has been one of the more popular ones that we've had each year, and that is to talk with a circuit court judge, specifically with Judge Person. Sean Person is a circuit court judge in Tippecanoe County, and I promise the picture I have on my screen is the same person that you see in the video, even though there's a little difference. See if you can figure that out. But Judge Person does a great job of sharing with us information about what he does as a judge himself, the trial process, jury selection, and those types of things, deliberation. And I think he's figured out a way that we can take a little bit of a virtual tour also as part of his presentation this afternoon. So Judge Person, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. We've got a group of about 26 or so students on today with the adults that are on here as well. And it's a bigger group. I don't know where we would have all fit if we had been in person in your courtroom. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll let you take it away.
Good. Well, welcome everybody. And usually this is a question and answer. Usually the students have lots of questions about the court system, and I hope we still allow for that. I don't know if the students are muted right now or how that all works. But by all means, if they're, yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing so they can see you a little bit better. We'll go to speaker view. There you are. And I will unmute them all so that they have the chance, if you want to, that they can talk to you that way. And we can still take questions in the chat. So either way will work.
Very good. Good. Well, let me just start off by explaining that I have a docket of all kinds of cases, so criminal and civil, and I do some family law, and I do some probate. And a lot of people, I guess, understand the difference between civil and criminal. I was going to ask some of these students and see if anybody knows. Any brave person out there know the difference? Oh, they can hide behind the mic here now that we're virtual. So criminal means that it usually involves a crime and someone can go to jail. Civil means they're usually arguing over property or money. It could be a car accident where there are damages. It could be damage to property or something of that nature. Does anybody know what probate law is? Yesterday I had a probate hearing for 3.5 hours. Okay, so probate law is usually when someone passes away and now their heirs or their family are arguing about who should get what property. Case I had yesterday, there was a person that died, left behind about $1 million, had 2 children, and they were arguing about who should get what. So again, a lot of times what judges do is we hear evidence. We have to be fair and impartial and do the best that we can to resolve disputes between adults. Sometimes we have jury trials. Jury trials is when we have, in my cases, usually 12 jurors come in and listen to a case and decide guilty or not. On the civil side, we'll have 6 jurors come in on civil cases, and they have to decide what the result of a case might be. And then other times we have bench trials. And so instead of a jury, it would be a judge who would decide whether someone's guilty or decide a civil dispute. I have 4 children. One of my youngest is Kate, and she finally confided in me a couple of years ago. She assumed that I sat on the bench every single day with my gavel and just yelled, guilty, guilty, guilty. And that's all that we really do. But I'll tell you, we don't handle tons of trials. Most of what we do are hearings. And a lot of my cases are family law. I could talk the entire period of time, trust me, about what I do, and I'm glad to share some stories of some of the cases that I've had and get you guys involved. But before I do that, let me just ask: do any of you guys have questions for me about what judges do or what we do here in the courtroom?
So I've had one that was sent to me in the chat, and that is, what's the most interesting case that you presided over?
Interesting, it's tough to say. I usually share that story of I had a case, well, I had a case with a client back in the day when I was a lawyer, went into Walmart to buy a Harry Potter book. It came out at midnight, and so he went out to buy it at midnight. He walked out with the book, and he's walking back to his car, and of course it's dark outside, and he's actually looking through the book as he's headed back to his car in the parking lot. What he doesn't notice is that one of the manhole covers is not there. Somehow it's been moved or got blown up, or somehow it's not in its spot, and he actually falls straight down and scrapes up the whole front side of his body. They call an ambulance, they come out, and they provide some treatment. He does not go to the hospital, but eventually he gets some nice bill for medical services that were provided, and he wanted Walmart to pay for his damages. Walmart said, why should we have to pay? You were clearly reading a book. You were not paying attention. If you were doing your job, then you'd be fine. This is your fault. And he said, no. You invited me onto your property. You had an exposed hole in your parking lot. This is your fault. And so this is a kind of a case that didn't get resolved by agreement. It had to go to a judge. And then everyone had to decide, or the judge had to decide, who was at fault, this person or Walmart. So do any of the students want to weigh in as to who should be responsible?
The man?
The guy.
The guy.
Walmart.
I think Walmart.
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 The guy.
Definitely Walmart.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Walmart, but I can't be certain.
Okay.
Walmart.
It was their parking lot. But the guy was walking. I do that all the time.
Yep, he was walking in the parking lot, and so ultimately the case did go in front of the judge, and the judge decided that Walmart should be responsible in the case. But again, I'll tell you, a different judge could have reached a different decision, and there is no blanket rule on what could happen. You have to decide ultimately how much this man was responsible for his conduct and how much Walmart was responsible, and then decide the case. So again, is it, what's your favorite case? I don't have a favorite case, but that one sticks out as one where whenever I talk about it with people, everybody has a different opinion as to who's at fault. Usually the room is split, and those are the kinds of things that we get involved with. Usually with students, I also share another just example, just to explain what civil law is. Again, civil law, they're arguing about money or property. Case down in Marion County now, many years ago, involved a case where a business was clearly at fault. They had a forklift truck that ran over a guy's baby pinky toe and cut it clear off. He didn't miss much work. He didn't have many medical expenses, but he felt he should be compensated for losing his baby pinky toe. The other party agreed they were at fault, but they just didn't want to pay a lot of money. They didn't think a baby pinky toe was worth much money. So it went to a group of jurors. 6 jurors had to decide, how much do we pay or compensate this man for losing his baby pinky toe? So I know those adults that have seen me before know the answer already, but let me ask some of the students, if you were a juror on the case, how much do you think a baby pinky toe is worth? What would you do if you were a juror?
Well, you'd have to think about what the purpose of a baby pinky toe is, and what is it do for the human body, and what might close some doors for this person because they no longer can do these things because they don't have that. It affects your balance. I know that much. And if the person was athletic, maybe he can't compete in sports anymore because he no longer doesn't have a complete foot.
Did you
So
say
give me a number.
Did you say
Give
he
me a
received
number.
any medical treatment?
Minimal. It's not much you can do. He lost it, and they just basically made sure that the wound healed up.
I would say just compensate him for his medical bills.
Just medical bills. Well, let me tell you that the law says that he should be compensated for losing the baby pinky toe. So he should receive money for it. It's just a matter of how much is that baby pinky toe worth. So if I told you that you were a juror and you have no choice, but you have to give me an answer. You can't say, I don't know. You got to give me a number for that baby pinky toe. What would you say? Oh, someone's got an opinion.
I would do 500K.
$500.
I think between 500 and 500 or 1,000 would be fair.
$1,030.
$330.
How'd you come up with that one?
It sounded like a good number.
It's a good number.
It's not like a super value. It's not like it's like a organ or anything. It's a toe, and it's the most worthless toe.
Yeah, like I'm trying to move mine right now. I can't move my baby pinky toe. It's just stuck there. I hear you. Anyone else?
Between $100 and $500.
Okay.
I need
There's a lot of you on there.
You need it. I mean, I need it for balance for $5,000.
And aesthetically, just in appearances. Let's say you want to wear sandals, and I could see some people being a little bit embarrassed by that. That could be worth some money too. It doesn't just have to be, inability to move or balance and things like that. For the same reason a scar might have value, I could see just missing the toe being a factor. Anyone else significantly different than those numbers thrown out so far?
Let's just say 2,000.
2,000. Okay. You guys aren't even close. I will tell you the case was in Marion County, not in Tippecanoe County, but the jurors came back, 6 jurors, and they agreed on $3 million. Real case, not making it up. But again, you all will get a notice at some point in your lives. You're likely to serve as a juror. The question is, can you be fair? Can you be impartial? Will you be a good juror and really listen to the evidence? I hope that you will. I would love to serve as a juror. I can tell you this as a judge, no way in a million years would I award someone $3 million for a baby pinky toe. That is outside the realm of reasonableness for me. So in that case, they're lucky they had a jury trial and not a bench trial, because they would have got a different result with me. Anyone think $3 million is appropriate?
I would say that's a bit high.
That's a bit high. I think
a bit high is an understatement.
That's an
Way too high.
That's an unfathomably large amount of money for a pinky toe, if you ask me.
Must have had a bigger
what
pinky
happens
toe.
when you have results like that, it causes some people to think litigiously. They start thinking that, well, I want to file a lawsuit if I'm injured because I might get a result like that. That's why you see some of those cases where the coffee's too hot, or the spilt coffee, I'm suing McDonald's and I want $10 million or $100 million. I just had a lawsuit the other day, and it was I was from a prisoner in the jail, but he named, I think, 20 different parties, and he's seeking $500 million against each one. But we have some people that are litigious, people that would like to go to court and just see what a group of jurors might do. But those are the, yes.
I have a question that's related to the issue of a jury. And the question is, what qualifies a case to have a trial by jury?
All criminal cases, the defendant has a right to a jury trial. And in most civil cases, the parties have a right to a jury trial. There are some exceptions like family law and juvenile law and others where they're strictly tried to the bench. I can say in the court that I'm in, I usually do about 2 civil jury trials a year and probably 10 criminal. Most of the jury trials are criminal cases. And understandably, a lot of times, even though you might think a judge is fair, and you might really trust the judge, some people would rather have a jury trial because the jurors have to be unanimous. And you got 12 jurors. You got to convince one of them that the state hasn't met its case beyond a reasonable doubt, instead of putting all of your chances in just one person. And so sometimes, you know, a defendant will look at it and say, no, I want my right to a jury trial, and they have that right. And that's why we try to give them a jury trial as soon and as quickly as we can. But it can be a very long wait. And right now, as we sit here, we haven't had any jury trials since mid-March. And we don't plan to start jury trials up until mid-July, and it may even go out longer than that because of COVID-19. So that's causing a real backlog of cases. But I usually invite 55 jurors in, and I'll show you the courtroom here in a little bit. I don't know how I put 55 prospective jurors in the courtroom and keep everybody safe. I mean, even with masks, you just can't have large groups of people in tight quarters right now. And so we've come to a grinding halt with jury trials. Good question.
Have
what
one
else does?
kind of related to that, I think. When does a hearing go to a trial?
Well, the parties go through what's called discovery. And so they have to share all the information that they have. At least the state in the criminal case has to share all the information that they have. Oftentimes there are depositions before trial where they'll ask questions under oath. And so ideally, both sides have seen everything before trial. Nothing should come out as a real surprise at trial. And then I would say in terms of length of time, I'd say usually between 6 months and a year. We try to close all of our criminal cases within a year, but somewhere between 6 months and a year is usually when it goes to trial. In a criminal case, the defendant has a right to a fast and speedy trial if they're in custody, so they can demand a trial within 70 days. They don't always do that, though. Sometimes they're trying to get a good plea agreement in the case, and if they tell the state, I want my trial right away, the state may say, well, you know that plea offer we gave you? It's gone. Let's just plan to go to trial. So not everyone exercises that right to a fast and speedy trial. So assume 6 months to a year. On the civil side, most of my cases go to a trial somewhere between a year and 2 years into the case. Those cases have a way of moving just quite a bit slower because they really work hard to try to get it resolved and settled out of court. Any other questions? Okay, I got one for you then. These are for the students. Who wants to tell me what a search warrant is?
When like police get a warrant to search your house, if they have like a judge allows it.
Yeah, so police can't just search your car, search your house whenever they want to. They get to wake up a judge in the middle of the night and call them and ask them for a warrant. So I do get calls at all hours. Nowadays, I get requests for search warrant on my phone. So I don't even really get out of bed. I get it in an email. I can electronically sign or modify it and then send it back. And judges are very accessible now because of cell phones and what we can do. I can only sign a search warrant if it's narrowly tailored, and I believe there's probable cause to find what it is that they're looking for, some evidence of criminal behavior. So by way of example, let's say officers go to a house and they've been told there's drug activity, and they knock on the door, the person answers, and smoke comes pouring out of the house, and it's definitely marijuana smoke. They can tell there's illegal drug activity going on. They kind of look around at what's going on. The person shuts the door, by the way, and says, go get a warrant. You're not coming in here. Officers look around and then prepare an affidavit, and they want to search the house, the 3 cars in the driveway, because they're pretty sure there's a party going on, and they want to search the back shed for evidence of marijuana and drugs. So let me hear from the students now. Who thinks that the judge should grant the search warrant? Or not, and then why? What's your answer as to why?
Definitely.
Definitely, because they know what marijuana is like. They can smell marijuana, and there's definitely drug activity. So grant the search warrant?
Yes.
Yeah, sounded like a little hesitant. Who else wants to weigh in?
Yes.
I definitely
Another
think,
hesitant yes. Oh,
I
a definite yes.
I definitely think it should be granted.
All right. Anybody else?
I think it should be granted because if there is illegal drug activity that's going on, they need to be brought to justice.
Yeah, they definitely know there's drug activity. I mean, they can smell marijuana. So definitely something going on there.
But what if they have a skunk for a pet? And it just turns out to be a bad joke.
Marijuana
Could be
and
spice,
skunks. Marijuana and skunks smell very different. Marijuana has a very distinct smell. You just walk around Chicago for a little bit, you'll smell it eventually.
There are some drugs that can mimic smell, I mean, just horrible smells. I think meth and manufacturing meth could be one. But does anyone disagree? Does anyone feel like I should not grant the search warrant? Nobody? All right, so under these circumstances, what I would do is I would say, I'm going to grant the request to search the house. Why? Because I have facts that support that there's marijuana in the house, it's being used in that house. I really believe as a judge, they're going to go in there and going to find marijuana in the house, 100%, okay? But do I think they're going to find marijuana in the shed? Do they have any facts to support that there's marijuana in the shed? Do I think they have good proof that there's marijuana inside the cars? I mean, they can look in the windows. They don't see anything inside the cars. They just like to search the shed. They'd like to search the cars. They'd like to search the house. My job as a judge is to say, you've got probable cause for that house. I will allow the house, but nothing else. And so sometimes it's not as easy as granting or denying. It's taking a look at it and then making it as narrow as needed to effectuate it. The other situation we get this quite frequently is cell phones nowadays. I mean, 10 years ago, no, we were not doing search warrants for cell phones. Now it's probably half of our search warrants are cell phones. And it could be threats, it could be child pornography, it could be a whole lot of stuff. But sometimes we'll get a request to take the phone, to seize the phone, and search the entire phone. Well, if you've had that phone for 2, 3, 4 years, that's a big, broad search. So a lot of times we have to narrow it and say, listen, I'll let you search. You thought something happened on this day, I'll let you search that day, or maybe a week before, maybe a week after. Usually the farthest I go is about a 30-day window. But to allow law enforcement to go into your phone and see years worth of data, it's an invasion into your privacy to some extent, and they've got to have a basis for doing so. For the same reason they can't go into the shed and into the cars, they shouldn't have access to years worth of data. They should be allowed to look at the one where I believe they're going to find evidence of criminal behavior. One of the questions I get frequently is what's one of the most interesting issues of law right now, or new issues of law. We have search warrants now where they're getting so technical. We don't have case law to tell us what's legal and what's not. Judges don't have any guidance other than us looking at the language of reasonable searches and seizures. So, for example, robbery at a bank. And we know the exact time the bank robbery occurred. Law enforcement has the ability to do they call it like an IP net, where they can catch every single cell phone that walked through the bank or was in the parking lot during that window, let's say 15 minutes of when the bank robbery occurred. And then they can cross-reference every single cell phone to see who was there for business, who was there that was an employee, and who's left, who's missing. And then you can find out from that process potentially you now have some identifying information from cell phones of who else was in that building. It's amazingly interesting. And the way that they can now investigate crimes is fascinating. But some people believe that now you're intruding into other people's privacy by collecting not just data from people that might be there to commit a bank robbery, but everybody else that's there for whatever reason they're there. And so judges are asked to grant these requests, and the nets sometimes are getting bigger and broader, and sometimes they're in parks, sometimes it's during the day, and all of a sudden, what's reasonable and what's not, it's tough to say when it comes to your phone. And so those are some of the interesting issues I think we're dealing with nowadays. What else, guys?
I had one in the chat for you that what are the different levels of circuit court, and maybe circuit and superior court and some of those?
Every county has one circuit court that we have a jurisdiction over particular kinds of cases like adoptions and probate and guardianship. We really have jurisdiction over all types of cases. And then as the county gets bigger, the General Assembly, they create additional superior courts to handle the additional work. In fact, Tippecanoe County, we currently have one circuit court and then 6 superior courts. We're adding a 7th next year because population growth and more cases that we have. And then even within our superior courts, we have chosen to divide up cases by area. So we have one court that handles all the lower level driving cases, primarily because that judge is so good on driving cases, it's easier if those prosecutors and PDs and the judge all handle that type of case. And we have one that deals with almost all domestic battery, and they get theft cases too. And then one that is all of our lower level drug cases. And so we do divide things up by areas. I'm in one of the cases that has all types of cases, but my criminal cases are usually higher level cases where if they're convicted, they're looking at a substantial amount of time. I don't usually handle misdemeanors or lower level cases.
And then to clarify the difference between a superior and a circuit court, what's the difference between those two types?
We actually very little in terms of we could allow them to have jurisdiction over just about all types of cases. Just know that every single county has one circuit court that is created by the Constitution, and then the other ones are created by the legislature. We really could divide up the work evenly if we wanted to, but we've stuck to our circuit court handling only certain types of cases. That's not a great answer, but it's a confusing issue or area of law.
And what are the qualifications to be a judge?
To be a judge, you have to be elected, and we're elected to 6-year terms. And every judge is a lawyer in good standing. I'd say as a general rule, you probably have to have about 10 years of practice under your belt before you run. That's not a requirement, but usually you've got some experience under your belt as a trial lawyer but before you're a judge. As a lawyer, I was a deputy prosecutor for 2 years. So represented the state in criminal cases, mostly driving cases. And then I went into private practice, and I did everything from criminal defense to family to civil, personal injury. I really handled all kinds of cases, and probably has helped me as a judge to not only have different cases, but to be a lawyer that used to represent the state, but then also represented some defendants, and helped to have to be able to see the view from both sides before then becoming a judge.
And then how many times can you run to be a judge?
I'm not aware of a limit. And I think in Tippecanoe County, I think our longest serving judge, we had one that was 30 plus years. He did the job. But ultimately, either the judge finally says, had enough, time to retire, or they run again and the voters decide it's time for a fresh face. And voters keep and hold judges accountable. If at the end of the day, they don't think a judge is fair, if they don't agree with the judge's sentences, they can vote them out. And probably the hardest thing as a judge is to do what you think is right, what is fair, what is just, without worrying about the voters. You can't make decisions based on popularity. You have to do what is right under the circumstances, and sometimes that means taking criticism for your decisions and then not being able to comment on them. We don't talk about our cases. We don't talk about our rulings. So we just have to do our best every day and try to block out concerns about elections and re-elections. I know for myself, I loved being a lawyer. I really did. I probably enjoy being a judge more. I feel like I'm doing very important work. But if I had to go back to being a lawyer, I'd be a happy man. I'd be able to support my family, and I'd be okay if that was the result.
And then I had one more come in. Does the circuit court check to see if ordinances are constitutional, like the Supreme Court?
Ordinances rarely are, we just rarely see challenges on those, but as to laws in general, yes, people challenge them all the time. And, you know, the intellectual side of the job, we love when we get a really good legal issue in front of us, whether it's a search and seizure issue or something else. I love to be able to tell the sides, go give me your legal briefs, give me your case law that supports your position. And we have some phenomenal lawyers where they make great arguments, and it's really one of the fun parts of the job. Toughest part, I guess that's a question I get a lot too, is what's the worst part of your job? It's never been easy to send people to prison. I have a lot of very good people that make bad mistakes in front of me. Sometimes they're there with their wife and kids, or vice versa, their husband and kids, and then their parents, and there are tears, and they're saying, please don't send me to prison. But sometimes it's the right thing to do. But I hope it never becomes easy to do that. I think it should always be difficult to do that, but it is a part of my job. It is what I do every single week. And all I can promise to people is that I'll try my very best to be fair and to do what is right. Longest sentence last year, I think I sentenced someone to 99 years, and that was recently affirmed by the Indiana Court of Appeals. But I've got cases where there's been no penalty involved, and sometimes it just feels right and appropriate to do that. I usually talk about the craziest case I've ever seen. Back when I was a magistrate, I had a case where a guy got arrested for theft. Back then it was a Class D felony, up to 3 years in jail. And his crime was he walked into a Payless store. He was being watched. He grabbed a jar of pickles. He opened the jar of pickles. He took a bite of a pickle. He put it back in, put the jar back, put the cap back on, put it back on the shelf, and then walked out. Now, did he commit the crime of theft? You bet. He did. He didn't pay for it. Should he be punished for it? Sure. Should he do 3 years in jail? Heck no. Heck no, not for the bite of a pickle. But again, judges are given broad discretion to do what is fair. And a lot of times it has to do with what is the particular crime. What kind of history does the person have, right? So you guys heard that story. You guys would be upset if that person went to jail, right? What if I told you it was the 15th time the guy did it, and he keeps doing it, and he says he's not going to stop? What then? Sometimes the only tool that we have available to us to change behavior is the threat of incarceration. So again, all we promise is to look at each case individually and do the very best we can with the information provided.
And I think you just answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway if there's anything else you want to add. What decides how long someone stays in prison?
The nature of the crime itself is a big factor, and there are a lot of factors involved. I would say their criminal history is a big one as well.
As we're looking at about 10 minutes or so left with our time with you, do we want to take a tour and see if any other questions come in as you do that?
Yes, let me turn the mic around. Sorry for coughing here. This is my chambers. I don't look at these books.
They look nice, though.
All of my research is online now. So we're walking into the courtroom. And you can see that some of the seats have blue tape on them, and it says no. That's because we're trying to socially distance in the courtroom. These are where the parties sit. So here's kind of a bigger view of the courtroom. When you look at this seating back here, do you think I can have 55 people in here for a jury trial right now? Makes you wonder. Here's the jury box. So 13 seats. Do any of the students know why would I have 13? 12 jurors, why would I have 13 seats?
Is one for the bailiff?
No, bailiff sits right over here. Right next to me. Any other guesses?
Alternate?
Yes. Who said that?
Tatiana Hobbs.
Good job. We have an alternate. So if someone gets sick, or maybe they realize during the trial they know something about the case, or they know maybe one of the parties, then they would be excused and we still can go on with our trial. This is our witness box. This is where all our witnesses testify. And not only do they have we have a big screen, but they also get to look at a TV screen that will show all the exhibits and videos and things like that. This is my bench where I sit. All of my cases now, I don't have files. I have a laptop there on the desk, and then a big screen that projects all the cases. And then finally, we have a sidebar room where there's a lot of times we'll be in trial and we have to discuss things that the jurors can't hear. We come in here and there's a microphone and we can discuss them privately. Everything we do is recorded, and if the case ever gets appealed, that's what they listen to. In here we've got pictures of all the judges that came before me, 1838 to 1852. What's interesting, I always comment on this, is we've got all these older judges in here. I'm telling you, not one of them is smiling in any of the pictures. They all seem to be very, very serious. Not sure why. Do you have time to see the jury room?
Sure do, yes. And we had a question about what the bailiff's job is.
Bailiff, they help the jurors and make sure no one interrupts them and that all the deliberations remain confidential. This is the Rotunda area. It's a beautiful courthouse. And so if you were a juror, you'd hear the case, and then when it's time to deliberate, you'd go over here into one of the jury rooms. Hopefully it's unlocked. This one's locked. This is one of our smaller rooms. They're doing some construction, so the table is moved apart, but basically they've got some bathrooms in the back. And so 2 restrooms, which is important because once they come in here to deliberate, that's it. There's a bailiff that sits outside. Nobody interrupts them. Nobody records their conversations, and they don't leave until they're done. And so it could be an hour. It could be 12 hours. I mean, it could be, there really is no limit. I know we have a former prosecutor with us. What's the longest you've ever had deliberations?
Hang on, yeah. I remember my shortest verdict was 15 minutes. I've never had one last more than a day, but they've been well into the night.
Yeah.
12, 13 hours.
My shortest was 15 minutes. The latest I was here last year, I think we had one that went till, I don't know, maybe 1 a.m. But that's rare that they would go that late. Any other questions about the courtroom itself?
We have a question about a mistrial. What is a mistrial and why would a mistrial be called?
Usually a mistrial is granted when there's a hung jury. So there could be a situation where the jurors just can't reach an agreement. And you might have 12 jurors and it could be split 6-6 or heck, it could be 11-1. And they just come back and they say, Judge, we cannot reach an agreement. We are locked. The judge has to declare a mistrial, which means we do the same trial all over again, but with brand new jurors. The other reason we might have a mistrial is if one of the court's rules is violated. So, for example, you usually don't get to know about a defendant's criminal history during the trial. If they had 10 prior drunk driving cases and they had a trial on number 11, you don't get to know about the 10 prior ones. Because if you knew about 10 prior drunk driving cases, you might convict just because of the priors. You might not look at the actual evidence in the case. So sometimes the judge will say, all right, listen, I don't want anybody talking about those prior cases. But during the trial, one of the witnesses accidentally slips and they start talking about the defendant's prior record. The court could declare a mistrial, say, I don't think I can provide a fair trial. We need to do this over with a brand new group, and that does happen from time to time. I've seen it in civil cases. The jurors are not allowed to know whether or not there's insurance coverage, and if they did, they might just treat it like a blank check to write whatever they want. How much are the policy limits? Is it $500,000? Is it $1 million? How much is it? But we've had some mistrials where somebody talked about insurance during the trial, and now we had to start all over again. So it's unfortunate when that occurs. Good question. Anybody else with questions? I'm not hearing any.
I don't see any more coming in yet. We had somebody just open their mic, so maybe we do.
Could you sit in your chair so we could get the view you do when you do a trial?
Say that again?
I'd like for you to sit in your chair and show us the view that you receive or you have when you are in a trial.
You bet. Sure. So this is my view from the bench, and I can see the witness. No, I never use that gavel that's there. That's more of a ceremonial type thing. I do have a drop down, I guess you can't see it from the ceiling, a drop down screen for all the video, which I can see. And I'm always keeping my eyes on the parties. This morning's hearing were all family law. And so basically this was my view the whole time. And then I can see the jurors throughout the trial. And then my cases, I pull up on a laptop. So I have a laptop here, and if I want to, it projects on this screen, which I can show the attorneys if I want, or keep here myself. But this is generally the view. And then I have I can control the volume of the speakers down here. I have the bottom is a bulletproof material. So if it ever, if someone got through the bailiffs, then I could, I guess in theory, go hide underneath the bench if shots were fired. And then I have a panic button. So I have a button that goes to law enforcement, and if we need it, they'll be here very quickly. I have not had to use the panic button. I have not had to duck under the bench for protection, fortunately. We did have a judge that had to use the panic button. Someone got upset and was angry and started throwing chairs around, and it can get a little intense. I had a defendant last year, 2 years ago, that got sentenced and picked up one of these tables and shattered the glass. But I think that's about as violent as anything we've had. Usually, if things start to escalate, I just get a bailiff. My staff calls for a bailiff. We get an armed bailiff to come stand next to the person. So I don't have to yell. I don't have to say anything. The bailiff doesn't have to do anything. When they see the armed bailiff there, they usually just calm down. They know they don't want to see it escalate, and I don't want to see it escalate. Part of my job, if I see it getting tense, is to calm everyone down. So if there's yelling going on, I don't yell back. I actually just tell everyone to take a time out. I usually talk quieter. I try to de-escalate the situation and keep everybody safe. That's one of my jobs, is to make sure everyone in the courtroom is safe. And so we do that by trying to de-escalate, not yelling back. A lot of people have views of judges being yellers and angry and mad. Most of us are pretty mild mannered.
What is your most unprecedented moment in a trial?
Unprecedented moment. Hard to really say. I'd say one of the funniest moments that we had usually when the jurors walk in, the bailiff says, "All rise," or the judge will say, "All rise." We had a criminal defendant that was so used to the system and had been in trial so much that when the jurors walked in, the defendant was the one who said, "All rise," because he was used to the court protocol. So now there are unusual moments, and I will tell you this, it is a serious job, without a doubt, but we have to have some light moments in the courtroom. We do laugh from time to time. It's okay to laugh from time to time. It helps us get through what we're doing, and it just can't be all serious 24/7. Do any of the students have an interest in law, either being a lawyer, a judge, probation, law enforcement, anything like that?
I do.
Good. We've got one out of 30. Here we go.
I'm interested in it.
It's a great area, and I will tell you that we need good lawyers, and we need good police officers. As you know, it's a really big issue right now, but we need good people going into these roles. And if you ever want to watch and see what we do, we have students come shadow all the time just to watch a trial or watch an entire day. And we have 7 different judges that would be available to do it. So you can pick the type of case that you'd want to see. If anyone has an interest in that at any point, contact us. Or I know you guys are from different parts of the state. Contact a local judge. And then, I mean, the other thing you need to know, this building I work in, which I love, is open to the public. It's owned by the public. It's their building. And they can come in anytime they want and watch almost all the proceedings except for juvenile matters. But sadly, most of what we do is without anyone watching and without any media present. And it feels like it's all being done behind closed doors. We want people to see what's going on. We want people to come in and watch. Maybe we'll get to a point where at some point a lot of this is online, so you can really see what's going on in your community. But even if you don't shadow a judge, go into a courtroom and watch for a day if you have any interest in this. I think you can learn a lot.
I have one more, Sean, and then we'll probably need to let you go. But your law school, what law school did you go to, and maybe anything else that would help students prepare for a career such as what you have right now?
So I went to Purdue for undergrad. I went to the University of Wyoming in Laramie, Wyoming for law school. So it's 4 years of undergrad and 3 years of law school. My advice is really just to take lots of writing courses. You'll speak a lot, but you'll write 90% of the time. And I had some professors in law school that absolutely tore up my writing and red penned it and chopped it up and taught me how to write more concise and more and clear. And I'm so grateful for that. And I had some mentors that lawyers early on that did the same thing. They were very effective writers. I was not when I came out of school. And so I always tell people, take traditional grammar, take writing classes. It will help you if you want to go into law. Quite frankly, I think it will help you in any area you go into.
Well, Judge Person, we want to thank you for being with us. Again, very interesting. Kind of fun to see the virtual tour. We hadn't seen underneath your bench before, among other things. But no, we do appreciate that. Thank you for all the...
Have a great rest of the 4-H trip and your time here in Tippecanoe County or virtually through Tippecanoe County. And if you guys ever have questions, reach out. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Judge Person.
You bet.
All right, we do want to, again, thank him. He does a great job each year, and certainly just appreciate him being with us. Katie, let me advance a slide or two here, and I'll let you take over for a minute.
All right, so we're just going to wrap up today. You've heard from a lot of different people in a lot of different positions. And over the past couple of days, we've talked about our local and a little bit of state government. So that means up next is our global component to our Start Local, Go Global. And we are going to be having some panelists join us with different international experiences. Several have lived across seas, several all of them have visited at some point across these international experiences. We've got some really interesting people coming to talk with us and share their stories tomorrow. Just as a reminder, it is 9 to 11:30 tomorrow morning. So we will not be seeing you guys in the afternoon, but we are excited to also be bringing in someone to talk about working effectively with others. Throughout the past day or 2 days, you've heard a lot of people say, you know, communication is important, understanding and listening is important, and it all goes back to how do we work with each other, whether it's in government, whether it's in your 4-H club, whether it's in your school. How can we tie this local, state, national, international piece all together?
Thank you, Katie. Again, get to sleep early tonight so you can be with us in the morning. I know some of you like to go stay up late and not get up real early. So tomorrow morning you get to do that if you want to be with us, and I hope that you will. So let me.
Yes, I don't think there's a dance today.
You're right. You're right. So let's take a look. There's some upcoming things that I wanted you to be aware of that apply to students in your age group and perhaps in your interest areas. One of those is going to be our State 4-H Junior Leader Conference. We are going virtual with that next week as well. We're going to be meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday afternoons from 3 until 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got a really cool speaker coming to join us on Tuesday. Craig Tornquist is from northern part of Indiana. He's going to talk with us about leadership and laughter. And I know that he's going to make it very interactive for us, as well as sharing some very good information too. Our Junior Leader Council that puts on this conference each year has put together some virtual skill sessions that they're going to be leading live for us each of the 3 days. And so they'll be talking about lots of different topics that will be of interest to you. We've got some small group activities built in, again, to allow for some interactivity. And we think things that you'll be able then to take back and use either virtually or actually in person when we can meet together again. And an interesting service project on Wednesday afternoon. You'll need a pair of old jeans or an old t-shirt and a pair of scissors. Just don't plan to wear those jeans and scissors or jeans and t-shirts again in the future. But we'll be making something out of it that I think you'll enjoy. On Thursday, we'll be doing a networking event. It's going to be virtual, and it's going to be an opportunity for you to interact with some business and industry professionals. You'll get to find out about what they do for their careers, but also how you yourselves can prepare yourself for a career in the future, whatever that might be, whatever your interests are. There's going to be some things that they'll be able to share with you that will help you with that. There's a link there that will connect you to the session each and every day. Again, that's 3 to 6 p.m. next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're excited about that and hope that you'll be able to join us for that one as well. Coming up in the fall, hopefully everything's going to happen by that time. We're planning on things being opened back up a little bit, but our Global Gateway experience that typically happens in the spring, couldn't do that in the spring this year, so we're going to move that to the fall in October. We're at Howell, Michigan at the Howell Nature Center, and a chance for you to learn a little bit more about what global hunger issues are out there and how you can address those in your home communities. And so we have teams of 4 youth and 1 adult that come together. We have about 4 openings for new teams because of the schedule changes. We had some teams that could not meet in the fall, but so that allows other teams to open up. So if you're interested in that, would encourage you to talk to your 4-H educator or your 4-H leader and see if you'd like to form a team as a county to join us. And then our Indiana 4-H Leadership Summit is coming up Saturday, November 21st. It's going to be at Carmel, and we'll have a chance to do a number of different breakout sessions, be able to recognize our tenured 4-H volunteers as well as our outside outstanding awards of excellence volunteers, both youth and adults, and then be able to see the scholarship recipients. Some of you may be receiving scholarships, don't know that, but that is something that will happen on Saturday, November the 21st. And then for those of you in junior leaders, this is the first public announcement of this. So surprise, here you go. But we've had a group of people working on some new resources for the junior leaders of the teen leader audiences. And so available this fall, coming to a junior leader program near you, is going to be our hashtag Adulting 101 series. There are 8 different lessons that talk about things from how to work on your car, credit scores, why that's important, how to vote, that kind of fits right along with what we've been talking about the last couple of days. Laundry, yes, you have to do laundry as an adult. Don't look at my laundry basket right now. Medicine, taxes, and then also Iron Chef, how to become an Iron Chef in your kitchen. So those are coming up. They're just about ready to release. And you also see a new logo there in the middle of the screen that kind of helps to brand our 4-H Junior Leader program. So I would encourage you to be looking for that coming up in the fall. Some of you are ready to start college. You may be doing that this fall, or you may be thinking about it. There's a new program through Purdue University that's called the Fast Start program. If you're interested in that, you can look at the link there at the bottom to tell you a lot more information. But basically, this allows you to take some free online courses called the CLEP exams, and that will give you a secured admission to Purdue University as what they call a Klinsky Scholar, and you can earn up to a year's worth of free Purdue credits, and this will be especially important for your parents, savings of more than $21,000 for that. So if you're interested in that, check out that link and you can learn a little bit more about that as well. We want to thank you again very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. We hope that you'll come back tomorrow morning from 9 until 11:30. A couple of things, if you've not had a chance to do it yet, let us know that you were here. Many of you have done that in the chat, or you might have already gone to the Qualtrics survey to let us know that you were here today. But the one that's going to be really helpful for us is if you will go to the purdue.ag/CE20 reaction link. And what I can try to do is type that at the same time I'm talking. We'll see how well that works. But we would encourage you to go to that link. Tell us something that you learned today, something that you think you might be able to use in the future that will help you as you go into whatever future career or perhaps a future opportunity that you're looking at. And let's see, did I do that correctly? Here it comes now. And so that one is one that you can copy and paste into your browser. And Katie did that for us also. Thank you, so that you have an opportunity to do that. But really helps us know something that you picked up from today and something that you might like to look forward to in the future. So we'll ask you to do that each day to tell us something that you might have learned. Again, thank you. We really appreciate you joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you again with us in the morning. Have a great night, everyone.